Hi, welcome to episode 21 of the Ukulele Sessions. Now, what do you need if you're going to be a really good ukulele teacher? Well, first off, you need to be a good ukulele player. Secondly, you need to be enthusiastic. You need to be charismatic. I think it helps if you have a lovely smile. I think you need to be inspiring, and I think you need to be fun. And one person who has all of these things is today's guest, Heidi Swedberg. Now, Heidi, you may well know her from her extremely successful acting career. But luckily for the ukulele world, she's gone back to her first love, which is music. And she currently travels the world as a performer and a teacher. Now, in 2009, she released her album Play, which should have sold many more copies than Moby's Play. Fantastic album. And then in 2013, she released the album My Cup of Tea. And that has the song My Cup of Tea on it, which is brilliant because there's a band version of it, but Heidi also does a really simplified version that you can learn, and the album comes with a booklet that has all of the chords in it. I think one of the reasons that Heidi is such a successful teacher is that she's so natural in front of the camera. This is my 15th take at doing this. I'm clearly a bumbling idiot in front of the camera. Heidi, not so much. Not only is she very natural in front of the camera, but she puts you at ease. And you can tell this is why she works so well with children. She just puts them at ease. Spend 5 minutes with Heidi and you will want to learn the ukulele, trust me. So as well as doing the album, she's also done some wonderful books, a couple of which I have here. And again, look at this book. This book is for children. It's just fantastic how colourful it is straight away. And they've coupled the idea, Heidi and their partner Daniel, of doing a colouring book with a music book. So it's really fun and it engages the children straight away. And the thing that I love about this book, it starts with C6. So it starts with an open chord. It gets children playing straight away. That is the knack. Okay, now when you couple the fact that Heidi is a wonderful musician, a wonderful teacher, and she works with Daniel, we all know what an amazing musician Daniel is, they come up with a winning formula. Another book that they released is 'Tis the Season for Ukulele. The thing that I love about this book as a teacher is that it comes with the melody lines written out as well as the chords. You can see here. So as a teacher, you can play the melody and the student can play the chords, or vice versa. And it's songs that we know and love. The melodies are also very cleverly done. There's nothing too complicated. This is just a fun book. I really recommend it if you're teaching. So I had a great chat with Heidi. Unfortunately at the moment, because of the COVID situation, we're not getting to see Heidi at all the festivals. But once all that is over, make sure you check her out. She's very inspiring. I mean, the world needs more people like Heidi doing so much and, you know, just spreading ukulele love. And that comes across in this interview. So sit back and enjoy my interview with Heidi Swedberg. Hi, Heidi. It's lovely to see you. Thank you very much for your time today.
Happy to be here.
Fantastic. So I wondered if we could start with you telling us a little bit about your childhood and what type of music inspired you as a child.
Well, I grew up mostly in Hawaii. Actually between Hawaii and New Mexico, which is an oddly, they're two places which are strangely alike in cultures, even though they're very different in climate. They both have a really strong native culture and a really strong sense of the culture being part of the place.
Right.
My parents were raised in Hawaii, and when I was a little kid, I got my first ukulele when I was 5 from the Easter Bunny. It showed up in our Easter baskets. I didn't realize this until much later, but my sisters all got nice ukuleles, and I got one that was kind of a toy. And I didn't know that. They broke that to me recently, and I was so pissed.
Oh dear. And do they still play?
No!
Justice was served.
I know. So one of my sisters still has hers, and it is a nice old ukulele. Mine got borrowed by a boyfriend and never given back. He sent me a broken mandolin in return, thinking it was the same because it had 4 strings. But so I grew up playing a lot, singing a lot.
Right.
Our family always sang in the car, and we moved around a lot because my father was a scientist who was affiliated with them, with a lot of military bases, because that's part of, well, anyway. He was a laser physicist.
Right.
So he was building what we used to call the death ray when we were kids. But we sang in the car, and we sang in, my parents were religious, we sang in church, and we sang at the table, and we sang around the Christmas tree, and we always sang in harmony because there were enough of us. I have 3 older sisters, and Daddy sang bass, sister sang tenor, and the rest of us sang alto and soprano in between. But I grew up with music, and I think that is an incredible, I think that is the most exciting and valuable music experience to have, is to have music as part of your life that makes you a native speaker. More important than being a great musician is being a person who has access to music.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And talking about sort of access to music, is that what attracted you to teaching the uke? Because for children, it's accessible in many ways. It's cheap. It's relatively easy to get started. As I've seen you online teaching old Joe Clark 1 chord, and children can take to it straight away. Is that what attracted you to it as a teaching instrument?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because there is that sense of access, that sense that I can do it, that I am musical, and it's right there. It's right there at your fingertips. And even if you don't get past that 1 chord song, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What matters is that you internalize music, that you learn song, that you connect.
Yeah.
Because to me, that's what music is all about. It's about connection.
Yeah.
Connecting through time, through place, connecting within yourself, to other generations, to other places. It's about connection. And that's what the human experience is about. So when we focus on music as being something that's done for performance, we start to stratify. And because performance is about showing people what you can do the best. And when we focus on music as process, we work on what's important inside of you, inside of each person. And that's the place I like to dwell, is in the world of process.
It's a really interesting point. I think going back to sort of music being close to your heart, and that, I think on a really basic level, when you strum an instrument, it's next to your heart. It's vibrating next to your heart. There's something beautiful about that, isn't there?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So with teaching children, I read that you said your first ukulele teacher made you fall in love with the ukulele again. And I think, do you in some ways find there's quite a responsibility to actually inspire children to learn it rather than just entertain? It's very easy with children to fall into the entertainment bracket rather than inspiring them, both of which are great, but they're separate things, aren't they? How do you go about separating them?
I tend to separate them by I like kids separate themselves a lot of times.
Yeah, yeah.
If there is that interest there and the drive to learn, then that creates your need to challenge.
Yeah.
So as soon as a kid starts showing you that they want, that's when you have to give, and you have to pull that back out of them, and figuring out, and it's a lot like fishing, because you've got to toss the line out there with the right bait on the end, and once they grab it, you got to give them a good tug, but then you got to give them some line again, because they can't get when you get overly frustrated, when you work too hard and you keep hitting your head against not good enough, then you give up. So you got to work them for a while until they're like, I did. And as soon as they get to that point of frustration and fail, then you ease off and give back and say, hey, but now we can play a Coldplay song, and that's fun. You know, you let them have a bite of what satisfies them for a while until you push them on to the next thing. And a lot of times they won't even notice when they've made it over plateaus, because there's that, if you give them a reward at the end.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point, isn't it? You know, if you sit and play a really complicated piece to a child to inspire them, great, they're inspired, but then they might equally be annoyed when they can't play it. Whereas if you sit and play them Old Joe Clark and then within 5 minutes they can play it, it's a beautiful thing, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and there's got to be a little bit of both.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Interestingly, picking up on something that you said about sort of making music. I read this in an interview that you said making music is much more important than being good at making music, which I guess sort of almost sums up what you're saying there.
Exactly. That when we get old, we end up with the songs that we learned as very small children. You see that a lot, because we've done a lot of work with Alzheimer's patients in care homes.
Right.
And you're left with what you started with at a very young age. And in some ways it doesn't, the height that you reached is less important than the fact that you were on the journey.
Yeah, I think that's such a beautiful point. I always, as a teacher, I'm sure you experience this, I get a lot of students come to me, adults, who say, I really want to be able to play. But there's a difference between wanting to play and wanting to learn, isn't there?
Yes, there is. And that goes back to practice.
Yeah.
And that's where you see the line of where do you want to challenge someone. If they don't have the ability to invest in practice, because I kind of think that's a gene, because I've seen so many musicians' kids who, I mean, way too young to really, and at any other child they would say, no, you're not quite ready yet. But you see a musician's kid pick up an instrument and start to noodle with it and go, no, wait. And they keep working and they keep working, and they wake up in the morning and they start noodling in their bedroom for an hour before they come out for breakfast. And it's like, okay, they have the practice gene. I don't know what to say about that. That's like something that is wild. But if you can commit to practicing, then you can get better. If you can't commit to practicing, then you can enjoy music.
Yeah.
And I kind of see practice is something which is really, really important to getting better. But it's not important to experiencing music. It's okay. And a lot of adults will say, oh, I wanted to come to ukulele, but I just haven't practiced, so I'm not going to come. And to them I say, and also children who show up to music class and haven't practiced, I don't get frustrated with them, because there's also the sense that the practice of music and practicing music, they're different things, but they have a spot inside of our hearts that are similar. When you practice yoga, you don't go home, work on it, and then go to a yoga class so you can, keep going. You practice yoga in the class itself.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point, isn't it? I think it's very easy, if you have that practice gene, which can be like a drug, do you miss out on the fun?
Say that again?
A child that has this practice gene, that's really like a drug, you wonder sometimes if that can take the fun element away from it.
Yeah, that's true. There are some kids who have a harder time having fun than others.
Yeah.
That is an interesting thing.
Yeah.
And putting that joy in there if you're looking at it as a discipline, and it's always, if you personally see it as a discipline, or if your teacher sees it as a discipline, there's the balancing of the fun, the joy.
Yeah, I think you quite embody the ukulele because you're a great fun person, and I think it really suits you. And I'm going to quote the great Jim Beloff now, and I think I'm going to have to start paying him royalties if I quote him much more. But he's got this amazing, amazing little thing that he says that there are no ukulele police. And there aren't. No one. Everybody plays the ukulele differently, and no one says you're right, you're wrong. And we've got these world-class players that all play with different styles. And have you found that? I know that you said that sort of. I remember you saying people are a lot less judgmental with the uke than they are the guitar. And have you found that in your journey?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. The thing which is, I think, the most joyful thing about the ukulele is that it's so welcoming to all levels of player. And guitar is hard.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
It's hard. It's physically hard. And it's even hard to tune the darn thing.
Yeah.
I mean, when I take a walk around my neighborhood, I'm so happy to hear people taking up the guitar again. But when I hear them strumming, all I can think is, tune, please. So, that's a huge instrument which has a huge struggle, and to get good at it, it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
And the ukulele it's like, so what, you're not good at it. It's this little tiny thing with this little tiny voice, and it goes right along with your little tiny voice, and let them out. I think the volume of the ukulele is part of what makes it such a lower judgmental thing. I'm having a hard time putting my words together. There could be more coffee in my life right now.
You see, I'm already caffeined up, so.
You have a head start by a few hours.
Yeah.
But the fact that the ukulele only carries about as far as a timid singing voice.
Yeah.
It means that it doesn't require as much. And so, does that make any sense?
Yeah, I think so. I can't remember where I read it. I think it was in Uke magazine, the one that you're in recently, and someone said if you get a bunch of guitarists together, they'll all try and outplay each other or show each other the latest thing they've learned.
That's Daniel.
Whereas if you get a bunch of ukers together, they'll all be playing along. And I guess, yeah, you're right, on a volume level, 100 uke players isn't going to deafen anybody, but 100 guitar players is.
Well, we tend to play ukulele to go with our voices. So it fits in here. But when you play guitar or violin, you're playing for other people. You're playing for out there.
Yeah.
It's a bigger thing that projects larger, and so it takes on a greater responsibility. Whereas you and the ukulele are responsible to yourselves. It's a little warm bubble of music that you make, and we can put 100 ukulele players together in a room because the instruments aren't too loud.
Yeah.
And they're sized to our little personal bubbles. So it's like it's an extension of the choir.
Yeah. Yeah, fantastic. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about your album that you released in 2009 called Play. And when I was a kid, I always got really upset that when people released albums, it never had a booklet with the chords in it, and yours comes with a booklet with the chords, which I think is such an obvious thing to do, but no one's doing it. Can you tell me the reasoning behind that? Because I think it's a wonderful idea.
Well, the entire album was actually the point of it was the chords.
Right.
I put that together because I was teaching kids at a school that didn't know really basic songs, and to their credit, the school kids in Los Angeles come from a lot of different places. A good 50% of the kids their parents were from Korea. So if they don't know Shoo Fly, it's like, well, of course they don't know Shoo Fly. Right. I also don't know Korean folk songs. So to teach kids songs so that they could play them by ear, I wanted to have some simple recordings. And I got together with my John and Daniel to put these recordings together. And as we recorded them for the kids in the school, they just got more and more fun. And we decided, oh, well, let's put them in a wrapper and share them with more people. So it was really made as a rehearsal CD for a school.
Okay.
And with the chords, they were the lessons I was teaching and the chords to go with them. And as we recorded it, it just got more and more fun. So we added more songs, which had more chords and more parts. But the booklet inside actually came before the recordings, because they were the songs that I was teaching in school. And they're in the keys that I used to teach. I wouldn't ordinarily choose those keys for me to sing in, so it wasn't about me performing. It was about teaching the songs in the most engaging way I could think of doing it. And I learned a lot over the process. Once we got them all recorded and put on a CD, I listened back to them and thought, darn, those are fast and short. And so we started making things with a little more breathing room in them as we went along, as things became more focused on being listened to rather than being rehearsal CDs. And then, a little later, we made the coloring book, which is actually the step 2 from the CD, because again, the lessons came first. I was still teaching at the same school, and I had an after-school ukulele club that the kids needed to have fun as they learned. It wasn't just the class time where they had to sit and behave themselves. We wanted to have a good time, so we started making coloring sheets to go with songs. So we would start the day by teaching a song a little bit, and then we would put out the coloring sheets and a snack, because it was after school and the kids were starving.
I went to one of these.
So we'd give them a snack, we'd give them something to do, and they would sit and color and talk and socialize, and I would play the song while they worked. So by the time they finished with a really open, free, social time, they knew the song.
Yeah.
We put the stuff away, we came back, and we would play it and sing it and play games. And that's where the coloring book came from. It's really exactly the same as the first CD, except backwards. The booklet inside is larger, and all the songs are recorded and available to download, because of course we also found as we moved along that CDs became they became obsolete.
Yeah.
So people can now download, go the other way around, have the book and download the CD, and sooner or later we'll get the pictures scanned and make the whole thing digital.
Brilliant.
But
I think it's really interesting, because somewhere along the line I can't imagine a guitar album, and I think this comes down to the snobbery almost. It's almost like the mystique of it. You know, a singer-songwriter doesn't want to let the chords out. I don't want them to know. Whereas with the ukulele, everybody wants to share more. And certainly I found with doing these ukulele sessions, I've not approached one person who has said no. They've all instantly, like your kind self, said, yeah, I'll do that. And I think if I was operating in the classical guitar world, I think I'd have a hard job getting people to do it, to be honest.
you know, so Daniel, my partner, was a classical guitar major in college.
Yeah.
And that's part of why he has such beautiful technique. But he switched from classical guitar to flamenco guitar because he was going to, as he was moving up in the guitar world, he would go to these competitions where he would get on a plane by himself, get into a hotel room by himself, practice by himself, go onto a stage, perform by himself, you know, with massive quantity of nerves, and then go home by himself. And it just was like, so this is the life, huh? That's damn lonely. It was just so grim. And so when he moved into flamenco, he entered a world where instead of being by himself all the time, it was all about going to bars with women who dance. And it's like, oh, Okay, this is a good time. So he was a professional flamenco player for 20 years, and then I gave him a ukulele. And flamenco has so flamenco, there are police.
Yes.
And they will cut you.
Cut you down.
Oh, it's harsh. Flamenco world is really harsh. The forms, it's a very closed culture. And I gave him a ukulele, and he started playing it and having fun. And then he started meeting the ukulele world, which is all about, it's really, the festivals are really more about the classes, about people wanting to learn and wanting to play together. And the concert's just there for the audience to be able to say, ooh, I want to learn how to play that. So you have an entirely different relationship with the audience. The audience is invested. They listen to everything you play and they go, ooh, ooh, oh, well, look at that chord change. Ooh. And you don't see that in any other form of music. You don't see an audience on the edge of their seat because they're interested at that level of investment. People sit back and go, wow, show me some more of your intense bullshit. Wow, intense bullshit. And that's the difference between ukulele and classical guitar and flamenco and all the other things. Is it's a realm of engagement rather than entertainment.
Yeah, that barrier's not there between the audience and the sort of performer.
Right. Yeah.
It's a great thing, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that. Now, I wanted to talk to you briefly about how you found the transition from teaching in person, dealing with real humans, to Zoom. How have you, or whatever platform you use, how have you found it during the lockdown?
It's been tough and interesting at the same time. I still teach at a preschool, and I don't teach ukulele there because it's not developmentally appropriate. But we went from a preschool class where we were sharing music and being very engaged one at a time, and also singing together, to that world of Zoom where they have to listen, and there's less room for that spontaneous talking to and everyone's in their separate spot. And so what I found the hardest was I didn't have my my ordinary bag of tricks. I couldn't keep that magic spell on them if there's someone else in their room.
Yeah.
If I have no control over the environment.
Yeah.
So having to access that to make that change was really big. Actually, that's why we have this big black curtain.
Yeah.
Is so that the distractions are less.
I feel hypnotized. You're sending me subliminal messages about buying another ukulele. What's happening?
It's because right behind there is my kitchen table and my laundry and my dishes and all of my stuff and
Don't spoil the mystique.
And right, you put this up and the only thing that's here is me and you and the music between us.
Yeah.
And your world, but making my world. So we found that we had to make our world more focused and smaller, so that when kids looked at us, we were amplified in that way.
Yeah.
So and there was the whole technology trying to get that together, because we went into a kind of a lockdown in March, and for the preschool we were teaching 2 days after lockdown.
Right.
Because the families are desperate. They need all the help they can get, and the kids needed that continuity. So we immediately had to jump in and figure out how to deal with it. So it was all about figuring out our microphones. I got a little body mic here, which makes a really strong, gentle loop, so I don't have to shout at the
Yeah.
at the microphone. We had to work on the internet. We had to do the black background. It was like all that stuff.
Yeah.
But what we found was that what the kids really needed more than anything else was connection. So we went backwards about 100 steps with the smallest of kids
Yeah.
to the simplest things so that they could connect. Now, interestingly, with older people and even older kids, we found that the Zoom lessons are really, really effective, and in some ways more effective than an in-person lesson, because the person on the other end has to stop and listen and really pay attention, and then they have to do it. So because they're not distracted by trying to do it with, it's one at a time, in some ways it's become even more powerful than an in-person lesson.
I think you're right. I think it's more intense. A lot of teachers that I've spoken to have said after a half-hour lesson over Zoom, they're a lot more worn out, because I think you tend to chit-chat less. A child won't look around the room so much. They've got to look at you. And I think you're entirely right. In some ways, it's more focused, isn't it?
Yes, much more so. And I know as a teacher, I'm more exhausted.
Yeah. Yeah, a
But
lot of people have said that.
I think the kids are too. A lot of times, everything that needs to be taught can get taught in about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Maybe 20, and then there's extra time for them to play for you. That's the part that is that I think that's where we get to have the relaxation and the stretch. Is kids and adults really want to be? It's the companionship. They want to play for you, so you get to sit and you get to really listen to them play for a while, and that's an important thing.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, lovely. Now, I wanted to talk to you about your songwriting methods. So, you write a lot of original songs. On a basic level, before you take us through your songwriting process, are you lyrics or music first? I'm always interested in that.
Well, a little bit of both. I tend to be concept first.
Ah, okay. And is that as in you have a concept for a book, so you need a song to fit a specific genre and sort of limit of chords, or if you could explain that a bit more, that'd be great.
There's a lot of that. So, Cup of Tea is a song that I wrote because I wanted to teach people how to move a single chord shape up the neck. So I wanted a 2-chord song, ultimately in C,
Yeah.
that moved up the neck, 2-chord song. It's like, okay, what can I do? And I wanted something that was simple, that was easy to learn, easy to teach, repetitive, and fun. So that was a song that was concept first. Hello songs and goodbye songs are things that we need when we're teaching small people in schools. So I wrote a hello song and I wrote a goodbye song because I needed a hello song and a goodbye song. Some songs come lyrics first, like The Owl and the Pussycat obviously was. Well, actually, I was noodling with a pattern. That was a pattern I was noodling with, and the poem fit into it.
Right.
So it didn't emerge as a song. It kind of that one emerged together as a song, but I was working on a concept. So I think in general I'm a concept first person.
So you're almost reverse engineering it, aren't you? You know you've got to do your 2 chords and chromatically up the neck, and then you're working backwards to achieve that, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember I was playing a Bob Wilson, a Texas Playboy song. Take me back to Tulsa, I'm too young to marry. Take me back to Tulsa, I'm too young to marry. So that's a 2-chord song, and I was thinking, now that one's great because I was using that as the way to, and then Take me back to Tulsa, I'm too young to marry. Take me back to Tulsa. And just analyzing that, I was like, okay, why is that so easy? Why is that so fun? Why does that work as I push that up the neck? And it's like, oh, because of this. And so that was the song that I had been using to teach that. And I wanted to have an original song to do it with instead so that we could record it. And that's how Cup of Tea came around.
Fantastic. And you wrote that with your daughter, didn't you? Which I think is, this takes me back to the opening when we talked about your mum taught you chords and now you're writing songs with your daughter. That's beautiful.
Well, I was sitting at the table trying to work that thing out, and she was having a cup of tea. And so we started singing, I started singing, "Oh, you are my cup of tea." And then she started singing along with me, and that song kind of came together with her. Yeah. Same with the goodbye song. She was singing some things, and we put them together, and we would just make stuff up together. And I love doing that with children. Children are fearless songwriters.
Yeah. Yeah.
She wrote her first song when she was about 2, and she would take a ukulele and touch the top and bottom strings and sing, "My little house, my little house." And it was like, that was mesmerizing.
Yeah. Yeah. I love what you've done with My Cup of Tea. You've done 2 versions, haven't you? There's a band version and a simplified version with the 2 chords. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, when I teach it online, I like to just teach it in C between C and G7 to people who are brand new ukulele players.
Yep.
And then when I'm teaching it to people who are a little further along is when we teach second position, starting in B flat, moving up to C, and that's the way it was recorded with the band.
Yeah, and I love that. It's again about accessibility, isn't it?
Yes.
Do you find, I think sometimes you can look at a pop song, can't you? And if it's really simple, let's face it, some of the best songs ever written are the most simple ones. But there again, there can be a certain snobbery around that. Do you find writing a song with 1 or 2 chords, do you find it limiting and harder? That you sometimes, you've strummed a couple of chords and you think, I know I've got to go to a minor here or something, and you can't because you're sticking to 2 chords for a child or something. Do you find it limiting, or do you find, no, that's okay, I can work within those parameters?
I find it liberating. I find it the opposite. And I even like to take songs that have way more chords and make them into 1-chord songs.
Right, okay.
Or completely open. Being able to sing something modally, to take a song and sing it so that it fits into a mode is really exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a certain skill to do that as well, doesn't it? I was doing something the other day and someone asked me to arrange a version of Autumn Leaves with 1 chord. And I thought, wow, that's a challenge.
How'd it go?
I haven't done it yet. I'm hoping you're going to say, I'll do that for you, Paul.
The autumn leaves.
Yeah.
Begin to fall.
You'd be okay. You have a nice singing voice. I have a woeful singing voice, so I struggle with these things, you say. And how do you find writing with someone? So you wrote this with your daughter. Are you happy writing on your own, or can you bounce ideas off someone? And do you bounce musical ideas, or is it mainly lyrical ideas that you bounce off of someone?
All of the above. And the same thing applies to songwriting as it does to song arranging. We do a lot of really fun arrangements, and it can be challenging to let go of your really great idea.
Yeah.
This is how it should be, and to let go of that and let the other person in. So Daniel and I do a lot of work together arranging songs,
Right.
making them work for a concept that we have, because we like to do a lot of things. We like comedy.
Yeah.
Make things fun and funny. So taking Till There Was You and turning it into Till There Was Y'all. There were birds tired, but I never heard a mooing. Oh, it was cows on the hill. But, you know, taking songs like that and going, but what if we do it this way? What if we add this to it? What if we do that way? You know, so those things really, it's a challenge to say, oh, but what I wanted to do was to have a big Montuno bridge, and this is where we come in and we play it. It's like, no, how about this? I mean, I don't know. It's being able to let go of your great idea and let somebody else's idea in. That's a challenge.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
ultimately, it's so liberating.
Yeah. Yeah, we feel a personal sort of connection to our songs, don't we? And to let them go, it's almost like when you let a song go out into the world. It's like you're letting your child out into a dangerous world, almost, isn't it?
It's true. It's true. You know, I have one song that I've written, which is a instrumental. Everything I do is a vocal. I have one song that I've written that's an instrumental. I wrote it more than 10 years ago. I still haven't played it for anyone else.
Wow. Yeah.
And I can't right now because I can hardly play. Just this is my first time actually strumming on a ukulele since I got my cast off from my broken wrist. So I'm pretty darn stiff.
Imagine you're holding up very, very well. So that's an interesting thing, isn't it? Why do you think you've not played that to anyone? Is this a confidence thing, or you're happy?
You know, it is. And at some point, I've got to practice what I preach and start to and play that song. As I recover, I'm going to start working on that more, and I'm going to perform it, because I tell people. I talk a big game about, you know, go into your fear zone and where you're uncomfortable. But have I played a song? No. So that's it. That's on me now. And as soon as
now, you better hope your students don't throw this back at you now. Next time you ask them to do something, they'll be, well, can I hear your instrumental?
Right.
That's going to be coming. On sort of timescales, do songs come to you quickly, or are you talking a matter of weeks, or are you talking 30 minutes for a song?
They tend to come pretty quick, but then they develop. They develop. There's a lullaby that I wrote, which I first wrote in a major key and in 4/4, and then it eventually became a minor key and in 3/4. So that happened the song was written in probably a day. And then as it sat and waited for it to be recorded, it changed. So things do continue to brew for a while, but a lot of times the writing happens really fast.
Right. So that's interesting that it changed. Did you have this song for a long time and then changed it to a minor key, or was something in the back of your head that it wasn't quite right, or?
Well, you know, it was more of that concept issue. As I remember writing it, I was on the way to school to have a teacher conference, and I wrote it while I was driving in the car and had it in my head. I had to go into the conference and say, hold on, I got to write this down. Okay, now let's talk about my child.
Yeah, first things first.
And then I put it away, and I kept it, and it was in my head, and I was singing for a while. But as I was working on other things, I realized, well, but nothing's in a minor key. Everything's in C major. Okay, well, let's put it into A. So then it went into A. It was like, okay, well, that's good, but everything's in a major key. I need something in a minor. Well, let's try it in minor. Ooh, I like it in minor. That's cool, but everything's in 4/4.
Yeah.
So
if you write something in your head like that when you're driving, are you picturing chords, or you have a melody and then you fit the chords behind it, or will you tweak the melody to fit chords? How will that go?
Well, that particular song wrote itself lyrics. That one was a lyrical thing. It was about I was trying to think about what used to put me to sleep when I was a child, and I used to go to sleep with the sound of cicadas singing in the trees outside. And so that was the song that the lyrics came, and but the lyrics came squished into a C major 3-chord pattern. And a lot of times that happens for me, that because the ukulele is such a great songwriting machine, and because C major is so the omnipresent key of the ukulele, a lot of times the song will start in C, because I can hear all the changes.
Yeah.
And I know exactly what the chord is. If my brain goes to here, it's like, oh yeah, that's a 5 of 5. Okay, so we got a D7. And so my brain knows where everything is on the ukulele in C that way, and I can write it there, and then I can go back and go, right, now that's not really the right key for this song. Where does it want to go from there? But a lot of the songs I write start off in C major.
So that's very interesting, because one of my favourite players is Lyle Ritz, who unfortunately is no longer with us, but a wonderful player. And
Yeah.
I read an interview somewhere, he said a lot of his stuff came from noodling. And you said your instrumental piece came from noodling, but it sounds like your lyrical pieces come more from an idea in your head and then you structure it. Is that fair, you think?
Yeah, I think so. And instrumentally, it was really fun, because I was working on I had, but again, it was a concept.
Yeah.
I was learning how to do a certain like a bossa nova picking pattern, and so I'd taken a bossa nova chord pattern, and I was noodling with that. But I was working on the concept of learning those two things. I did both of them wrong, and that's how a song was written.
Many
Because
good
if I'd done them right, I would have been playing "Fly Me to the Moon."
there you go. It's interesting, because most people I think that I've interviewed fall into one camp. Either they noodle, or they come up with a concept. And it's interesting, you're probably the first, potentially, or maybe the first to admit it, that you fall into both camps there. Make of that what you will.
I don't write a lot of songs. I, I don't think of myself as a songwriter, even though usually when we do a set, if I look back on the set list, I go, oh yeah, there's at least 30% that I wrote that's included in there. But I don't think of myself as a songwriter. I think of myself as more an interpreter,
Okay.
or an instigator.
Okay. That's great.
And the thing I like to do more than anything else is to instigate other people to play and to sing. A lot of the songs that I do are really all about that, about getting other people to join in, to sing along. You know, we do the Stevie Wonder song Sir Duke, because when you get an audience full of people singing, you can feel it all over, and it's like, that's everything. I'll never forget, we were doing a show at a festival called Austin City Limits in Texas. And we were on the kids' stage doing the kids' music in the morning. And then we got, the wrist passes to be there for the whole day, and Stevie Wonder was headlining.
Oh,
and we got to go to Stevie's show, and there were, I don't know how many thousand people, maybe 100,000 people. And he ran that entire concert like a sing-along. Because everyone knows Stevie's music, and I think people don't realize how complicated, how complex those vocal lines are.
Yeah.
You know, every song of his changes keys about 10 times within a verse. It's nuts, and it's such complicated music. But because we've all ingested it, starting at a very young age, we sing it so naturally. We sing it as if we were singing around a campfire, and there he is, so generous that he's asking the audience, come on everybody, sing along on this. And it was amazing.
Yeah, what a wonderful story. Now I wanted to talk to you about the future. What plans have you got ukulele wise in the near future?
That's tough, isn't it?
Yes.
Can we even consider a future right now? I don't know. The future is not what it used to be, Paul.
It's very true. It's very true, but it's going to happen whether you like it or not.
The future is just not what it used to be. I don't know. I assume that 2001 might be a redo of 2000. 2021 is the 2020 redo, where all of the festivals we were booked to perform at, we actually get to go to. I'm hoping maybe that'll be 2022. I don't know. But anyway, sooner or later we'll get back on the festival circuit and go out and sing with people. Right now we are really excited about Christmas.
Fantastic.
Because, I've always loved Christmas because it's the time of year where everyone sings together and they might know more than the first verse.
Yes, yeah.
And we know, and there's just such a body of songs that we all know and sing together. And I was teaching at a school that I mentioned before, where the kids came from so many different places from around the world. And every year for the holiday program, I would arrange songs, and I would try to get songs that would represent the different backgrounds of kids. And so last year we made a holiday book, and it's full of songs from that we picked up for the school. So there's a song in Tagalog from the Philippines called Sa Mabahay, which is a power polka.
Wow. Wow.
That is a good time. There's a song from Sweden. We had a Swedish teacher, and we used to sing Santa Lucia in Swedish with the school. There are songs in Spanish and German, and it's really fun. And the idea that this strange year of 2020 has been kind of the gift and curse, which has made us come together. There's an incredible silver lining to this year, and here it is right here.
Yeah.
I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
And I doubt that we would have gotten our Zoom game together like this to do this sort of a thing if we hadn't been forced to.
It's very, very true. As a teacher, I was approached by people before all this to teach internationally, if you want to call it that. And I always said, oh, no, I'm not doing that. And then when this COVID happened, like you, I don't think I reacted as quick as you, but I reacted and started doing Zoom lessons. And now, I have this wonderful thing where I get to chat to people like you, I get to teach people in America, etc. And there is a silver lining. I just hope, like you said, it's coupled with festivals coming back. They will. I just hope so. Do you think you'll get to England?
Yeah, I hope so. We were there last year for GNUF.
Yes.
And Daniel was there 2 years or so before that for Cheltenham.
Yes.
So we would love to come back because we had such a great time, and we, more than anything, we loved working with London Ukulele Project.
Yes. It's Tara, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Tara took us to so many different schools.
Yeah.
It was just a delight. So we worked with the elderly people in her group. We worked with school children. We did a kids. It was so much fun. The most fun was going to the school where children with cognitive difficulties, and doing kids classes, sitting on the floor with those beautiful children. It was a joy, and it was so much fun to learn things from them. American Sign Language is so different from British Sign Language.
Okay.
Who knew?
Yeah.
I had no idea, because a lot of the children's stuff I do, I use American Sign Language in, and I had to learn their sign language to make the songs work. It was fun.
Yeah. I think Tara's doing some really special work. She's on my radar to chat to.
Oh, she is such a beauty.
Yeah, it seems really, really positive what she's doing, actually.
Yeah.
So that's a beautiful thing to end on. But I do have one more question that I like to ask everybody. So,
Okay.
Heidi, you're going on a car journey. You can go anywhere in the world, and you can go with Anyone. And you don't have to say Daniel. What car would you be in? Who would be in the car with you? What would be on the stereo? And finally, where would you be going?
Well, I would be in that 1987 Saab that Daniel just
William.
picked. Oh, absolutely.
Love
And actually this fantasy is going to come true really soon. Daniel would be driving, but I guess my fantasy level would be to put James Hill and Ann Janelle in the back seat.
Fantastic.
And nothing on the stereo.
You don't need a stereo then.
Exactly. What I want to do is I want to sing in the car with those two.
Yeah. That'd be great. And you'd have to film that.
Oh, wouldn't that be wonderful? I remember watching James leave a festival where he was getting a ride from somebody else, and there were like 8 people packed into the car, and his face was against the glass in the back seat. And man, I would have paid to be in that car. I'm telling you.
Yeah. Where would you be going?
Well, I think I would be going to my happy place, which is New Mexico, and hopefully we would be going there to play a festival.
Fantastic. And you'd want a nice long journey with them beautiful people in the car.
Mm-hmm. Yep, good. That's a good 16-hour drive.
There you go. Fantastic. Heidi, thank you so much. It's been an absolute joy chatting to you. I'm just going to press the stop record button, but thank you very much for your time. If I can just pause this, stop recording.